The room wasn't loud. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't even tense. It was still, the kind of stillness that feels unnatural, like the universe is holding its breath, waiting for something it already knows is coming. The studio lights hummed faintly above, creating a soft halo over the freshly cleaned floor. Makeup brushes lay neatly on their trays. Producers whispered last-minute instructions through their headsets. A cameraman adjusted his frame, zooming in on the empty chair where Yandy would sit. Everything looked normal. But the air wasn't normal. It was thick. Heavy. Like grief waiting to be born. For weeks, people had felt it. Hints dropped. Eyes dodged. Conversations shifted suddenly whenever Rasheeda walked in. The others knew something was brewing deep, dark, slow. They knew Rasheeda had heard something. They just didn't know when the explosion would come. And then it came. A sharp, piercing gasp cut through the silence, so sudden, so violent, it made even the lighting guy jolt. And before anyone could process that sound. Crack. Rasheeda's palm collided with Yandy's face with such force the impact echoed through the studio like a gunshot. The slap didn't just land, it detonated. The cameras shook. The makeup table rattled. Someone dropped a clipboard. A producer screamed, "Cut! Cut! Stop!" But nothing stopped. Everything froze except for the sound still ringing through everyone's skull. Yandy didn't fall. But she staggered, one hand flying to her cheek, eyes wide, mouth open, stunned that the woman who once called her sister had just struck her with the fury of 10 buried years. You could almost hear hearts breaking in real time. The entire studio became a world suspended in shock. Even the security guards, usually quick to react, stood frozen, eyes darting back and forth like someone had ripped the script from their hands and replaced it with a live grenade. Someone whispered, trembling. This wasn't in the script. But this wasn't performance. It wasn't TV. It wasn't ratings drama. This was real life finally snapping. Rewind 30 seconds. Yandy had walked in first, heels clicking, chin high, wearing the confidence of a queen who knows cameras adore her. She was poised, polished, calm. To the world, she looked unshakable. But Rasheeda was already there. And Rasheeda wasn't calm. She had been pacing the room like a lioness cornered in her own home, breathing fast, fists tight, eyes blazing with a storm she had tried so hard for so long to contain. Her lashes were damp. Her jaw trembled. She looked like a woman who had just heard the one truth she prayed was a lie. A betrayal. A deep one. The kind that turns friends into strangers. She didn't come to talk. She came to deliver justice. When Yandy walked in smiling, unaware, untouched, Rasheeda's chest collapsed inward. All the years of loyalty, of shared secrets, of holding each other up front stage while tearing apart backstage, all of it snapped. You really thought I didn't know? Rasheeda said, voice shaking with heartbreak and rage. Yandy blinked, confused. What are you talking of? Slap. Time did something strange. It crawled. Stretched. Stalled. Rasheeda stood there trembling, her chest rising and falling like she had just thrown out a decade of pain with that one strike. And maybe she had. Her voice, low and deadly, cut through the frozen silence. You've been lying. To him. To us. And worst of all, you've been lying to yourself. Yandy's eyes glistened, not from tears, but from shock. From betrayal. From the realization that a secret she thought she buried had finally clawed its way to the surface. Lying, she hissed back. You hit me because of a rumor. Rasheeda shook her head slowly. No. I hit you because it's not a rumor. That's when a new voice entered the conversation, deep, familiar, trembling. She's right. Everyone turned. It was Mendices. standing behind the cameras. Face pale. Eyes broken. Hands shaking like he'd been holding a truth too heavy to carry alone. "You told me you were alone that night," he said quietly. Yandy's lips parted. "No. No, we said we wouldn't do this here." He stepped forward, voice cracking. "And you said you wouldn't lie." Rasheeda folded her arms, watching it all unravel exactly the way she knew it would. People believed Rasheeda and Yandy were sisters. Soul sisters. Industry survivors. Two women who built empires side by side. But here's the truth. Their friendship had been cracking for years. Every "we're family" selfie. Every "my sis" reunion moment. Every public display of unity was carefully hiding years of jealousy, resentment, and silent betrayal. Rasheeda, the battle-tested OG, built her life brick by painful brick. She endured public humiliation, infidelity, broken trust, and judgment from millions. She wore her scars openly. Yandy, on the other hand, perfected the art of illusion. Her life was curated. Polished. Filtered. Every flaw airbrushed into a new storyline of strength. To Rasheeda, it felt fake. Like Yandy was living inside a fairy tale. While Rasheeda was drowning in the real world. And nothing burns worse than watching someone pretend their perfect life is real, when you know the truth. Not with the slap. Not even with the affair. It started years earlier. With Mendices. With Erica. With secrets nobody wanted to touch. The more Yandy clung to her image as the loyal wife, the more Rasheeda saw her slipping into the same trap she had barely survived. One night, Rasheeda told her over wine. "Loyalty isn't love. It's a prison if you're loyal to the wrong person." Yandy brushed it off. But those words stuck. And when rumors surfaced that Yandy's marriage wasn't even legal, that was the first crack. Then came the late-night dinners. Carlos King. The texts. The robe photo. The emotional cheating. The lies. And the worst part? Yandy wasn't the only one lying. M was too. "Tell her, M," Rasheeda said sharply. M's jaw clenched. "Rasheeda, don't. Tell her you've been seeing Erica again." Yandy shook her head violently. "No. No, that's not." But M didn't deny it. And silence is louder than confession. Yandy staggered again, not from a slap this time, but from the truth. Her voice broke. "Is that why you pushed me away? Is that why you haven't touched me in months?" M looked down. And that's when TMZ called. And everything went nuclear. He sat there, frozen, his breath caught somewhere between fear and disbelief. The words echoed like a gunshot inside his skull. "This is not a threat. This is a warning." For the first time in a long time, he felt small. Like the world had shifted under his feet, and he had no idea where solid ground was anymore. But deep inside him, buried under regret, anger, and exhaustion, something else flickered. The need to know the truth. He swallowed hard. "Explain." His voice was low, tight, almost breaking. She didn't hesitate. "Those messages you think are innocent. The ones you brushed off as misunderstandings. They weren't misunderstandings. They were intentional. Calculated. And the person behind them wasn't confused. He wasn't emotional. He was planning." "Planning what?" he asked sharply. "To break you," she whispered. "To make you lose everything you've built. To take control of the one thing he never had, influence." He blinked, confused, almost laughing from the absurdity. "Who would want that? Why would someone target me?" She leaned closer. "Because you're the only one who ever challenged him. You're the only one he couldn't manipulate. And people like him, they don't forget people who make them feel weak." His mind spiraled faster. Names. Faces. Memories. People he trusted. People he doubted. People who smiled too much. People who asked too many questions. People who were always there. A little too conveniently. One face stood out. A name he didn't want to think about. A person he tried to defend for years. His stomach twisted. Her eyes widened, she knew he'd figured it out. "You're thinking about him, aren't you?" she said softly. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because deep down, he knew she was right. She sighed. "You ignored the signs because you wanted to believe he cared. You convinced yourself he was loyal. But while you were protecting him, he was documenting everything. Watching you. Studying you." His pulse thudded in his ears. Every late-night conversation. Every moment of trust. Every private admission. All replayed in his head like a nightmare. "How long has this been going on?" he asked, barely breathing. 2 years, she said. He flinched. 2 years. "Yes," she continued. "And it escalated after that night you confronted him. After you told him you were done giving chances. After he realized he had no control left." He rubbed his face, trembling. He remembered that night clearly. The anger, the finality, the disappointment. But he never imagined the aftermath. He never imagined revenge so quiet, so patient, so strategic. "Why are you telling me this now?" he asked. And then her answer cut deeper than anything else. "Because he's not done yet." Silence wrapped around them like a blanket made of knives. She studied him with a mix of fear and pity. "He's planning something bigger," she whispered. "Something that will force you into a corner where every choice makes you look guilty." "What kind of plan?" She hesitated. "He's going to release conversations, edited conversations. Ones that make you look like the villain. Ones that twist your words into something dangerous. Something people will believe." His chest tightened. "He can't do that." I didn't say anything like that." She looked at him with sad eyes. "You don't need to have said it. All he needs, is enough fragments to stitch together a lie." He closed his eyes. But it didn't help. The darkness behind his eyelids felt even heavier. "For 2 years," she repeated, "he's been playing a role. Acting harmless. Acting loyal. Waiting for the right moment to strike. He's been building a story about you, a story he intends to make the world believe." "And what do you expect me to do?" he asked, his voice strained. She leaned forward, her expression deadly serious. "I expect you to finally stop pretending he's your friend." That line hit him like a slap, sharp, undeniable, unavoidable. Because she wasn't wrong. He'd been pretending, for years, that the cracks in trust weren't real. That forgiveness could fix everything. That loyalty was enough to cure betrayal. But betrayal doesn't heal. It rots. It spreads. And eventually, it destroys. She reached into her bag with trembling fingers. "I didn't want to show you this," she said. "I hoped I'd never have to. But after what he sent me today, you need to see it." She placed a phone on the table. Her screen lit up. Messages. Recordings. Screenshots. His name. His voice. His conversations. All twisted. Cut. Manipulated. Weaponized. He felt sick. His throat dried. His hands went cold. His heartbeat stumbled. She whispered. "This is just the beginning." His hands hovered above the table, shaking, not from fear alone, but from the overwhelming weight of realization. The air felt heavier, thicker, poisoned by a truth he had refused to acknowledge for far too long. He stared at the screen again. At the twisted messages. At the manipulated voice notes. At the carefully engineered lies. This can't be real, he whispered, almost pleading with reality to change. But she shook her head. It's real. Every bit of it. And he's been preparing this for months. His chest tightened. Not just emotionally, physically. Like someone was sitting on his ribs, crushing the air out of his lungs. She slid another file toward him. Look at the timestamps, she insisted. Look at how precise everything is. He forced himself to breathe as he examined the details. The screenshots were taken on days when he wasn't even online. The voice recordings were spliced together from 4 different phone calls. The tone, the words, everything stitched with surgical precision. A narrative designed with only one goal. To destroy him publicly. It's not a spontaneous attack, she continued softly. It's a project. A mission. And you were the target. He clenched his jaw until it hurt. Why would he go this far, he asked, voice cracking. She looked down. Then up. Then finally spoke the truth he wasn't ready for. Because you became everything he wanted to be, and couldn't. He sat back, eyes drifting across the silent room, mind unraveling the years. The small hints. The strange questions. The overly curious behavior. The way he always wanted to know his schedule, his arguments, his weaknesses. Everything suddenly aligned. Jealousy doesn't scream. It whispers. It watches. It keeps score. And then one day, it attacks. He shut his eyes tightly as the memories flashed like a broken film reel. I defended him, he muttered. I trusted him when nobody else did. I know, she replied gently. And that's why this hurts so much. He used your loyalty as a shield. He hid behind your trust so you'd never see the blade he was sharpening. She reached into a small envelope and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Before you say anything else, she said quietly, you need to see this. He unfolded it slowly. His eyes widened. It was a printed conversation, his name at the top, but the words, they weren't his. Not even close. It was a fabricated confession. A fake admission of guilt. A script written to ruin him. What is this? He whispered. It's what he plans to leak next, she replied. The final nail. The one that will make everyone turn on you. He felt the floor drop beneath him. He wants to erase you, she added. Not just your name. Not just your reputation. He wants to remove you from every circle you ever built. His heartbeat echoed in his skull. One thought hit him harder than all the others. This wasn't betrayal anymore. It was warfare. The room felt smaller. His breaths grew shorter. She watched him carefully, worried he might collapse under the emotional weight pressing down on him. You need to stay calm, she said softly. But he couldn't. How do you expect me to stay calm? He snapped, slamming his fist on the table. She flinched, but she didn't look away. He inhaled sharply, running both hands through his hair. He was like a brother to me, he said, voice breaking for the first time. And all this time, he was waiting for me to fail. No, she corrected gently, placing her hand near his, close, but not touching. He wasn't waiting for you to fail. He was planning to make you fail. Her words hung in the air, heavy, brutal, undeniable. He finally spoke again, softer this time. So what now? What does he want? Money? Control? My name? My life? She shook her head. He doesn't want anything from you. He wants everything taken from you. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. But why tell me? He asked quietly. Why help me? She swallowed before answering. Because he contacted me today, she confessed. He wanted me to testify against you when the time comes. The world stopped. His breath caught. "And did you agree?" he whispered. "No." Her answer was firm. Immediate. Unshakable. "I came here because you deserve to know the truth before the world decides who you are." Silence fell again. But this time, it wasn't confusion. It wasn't denial. It was clarity. Painful, sharp clarity. The kind that forces a person to change. She pushed her chair back and stood. "You don't have much time," she warned. "He's moving fast. Faster than you think." He nodded slowly, the weight of everything settling on his shoulders. A storm was coming. A storm he didn't start. A storm he couldn't avoid. But for the first time, he wasn't running from the truth. He was preparing for it. She turned toward the door. "Part of me is scared," she admitted. "But another part of me believes, you're not going down without a fight." He lifted his head. Eyes burning. Heart steady. Voice controlled. "Not this time," he said. "Not anymore." She nodded once, respectfully, almost proudly, before walking away. The door closed behind her. He sat alone. But now, he was no longer the victim. He was the survivor who just discovered the war he had to win. He sat alone for several minutes after she left, staring at the door as if answers might walk back through it. But nothing came. Just silence. A thick, suffocating silence that wrapped around him like a coil. Under normal circumstances, he might have panicked. He might have spiraled. He might have collapsed under the weight of betrayal. But not today. Today, something inside him shifted. The shock was still there. The hurt was still raw. But beneath all of it, buried deep within the bruised parts of his heart, something fierce awakened. Resolve. For years he had been loyal, forgiving, patient, accommodating. But loyalty becomes a cage when given to the wrong person. And now he knew exactly who had locked him inside it. He stood up slowly, inhaling a steady breath. The storm wasn't coming anymore. It had already begun. He walked toward the window, staring out at the quiet street below. Everything looked normal, a lie the world often tells while chaos brews underneath. His reflection stared back at him. Tired eyes. Tense shoulders. A face that carried too many battles silently. He whispered to himself. Where did it begin? He forced his mind to open the vault of memories he tried so hard to ignore. Moments that didn't make sense back then, but now. They formed a pattern so clear it almost felt embarrassing to miss it. The strange questions. The probing curiosity. The fake support. The way he'd always appear when something bad happened. The way he always wanted updates, who he talked to, what deals he made, who he trusted. Back then it felt like friendship. Now it felt like surveillance. He clenched his jaw. No more. He pulled out his own phone and opened a hidden folder he hadn't touched in months. It was a habit he developed long ago, saving voice notes, saving texts, keeping receipts. Not out of paranoia, but out of necessity from a life filled with difficult people. He tapped the folder. Recordings. Screenshots. Videos. He never realized those irrelevant archives would become his shield now. One specific file made his throat tighten. A recording from nearly a year ago. He tapped play. His betrayer's voice filled the room, casual, confident, and dripping with passive-aggressive warnings masked as jokes. "Bro, you're getting too big now, don't forget who helped you. Some people don't like watching others rise too fast." At the time, it felt like friendly concern. Now it sounded like a threat. He exhaled slowly. He was planning this even then. His hands trembled with anger, not the kind that explodes, but the kind that sharpens a person's mind. The phone buzzed suddenly, cutting through the tension. A message. From him. The betrayer. His stomach tightened. The timing wasn't a coincidence. The universe has many languages. And one of them is warning. He opened the message. We need to talk. Urgent. He laughed under his breath, not from amusement, but from disbelief. Now he wanted to talk. He typed nothing. Just stared. A second message followed. There's a lot of noise around you lately. People are saying things. I'm hearing things. I just want to help. Help. That word tasted poisonous. He whispered. Of course you do. It was the kind of help a spider offers to a fly stuck in its web. He locked the phone without replying. Not yet. If he confronted him now, emotionally, unprepared, vulnerable, he'd lose. And this time he couldn't afford to lose. He grabbed a notebook from the drawer, a simple, worn-out journal he rarely used. But today, it became his strategy map. He flipped to a blank page and wrote one sentence at the top. If they want a war, I'll write the rules. He listed everything he had. The real recordings. The untouched conversations. Screenshots proving he wasn't online during fake timestamps. People who saw the manipulation. Her testimony. His own evidence archive. Piece by piece, the truth was stacking up on his side. He didn't need revenge. He needed clarity. He needed exposure. He needed timing. He whispered. I will not let him rewrite my story. Just as he closed the notebook, a soft knock echoed from the hallway. His heart skipped. No one ever visited this late. He approached the door quietly, cautiously, every nerve alert. He opened it. And froze. She was back. But something was different. Her breathing was fast. Her cheeks were flushed. Her eyes, wide, terrified, held a message even before her lips spoke. He knows, she whispered. His blood turned to ice. He knows I came to you. He knows I warned you. He felt a chill run down his spine. How? He asked sharply. She shook her head. I don't know. But he sent me a message. What message? Her voice broke. He said. You picked the wrong side. He felt the bottom of the world drop again, but this time he didn't freeze. He didn't crumble. He didn't panic. He stepped aside and motioned her in. Lock the door, he said quietly, his tone sharper than steel. This just became bigger than both of us. She entered, trembling. And for the first time, they both understood. This was no longer friendship. No longer drama. No longer misunderstanding. This was a conspiracy. And they had just become the two most dangerous people in it. The moment she stepped inside, the energy of the room shifted. Not chaos. Not fear. Urgency. The kind of urgency that tells you the ground beneath your feet is no longer solid. It's cracking, and something is trying to crawl out. He shut the doors softly, but the click echoed like a gunshot. She stood in the center of the room, arms wrapped tightly around herself, as if trying to hold her fear in place. Her voice was barely above a whisper. He knows everything. He swallowed hard. Everything. She nodded. Your phone. My visit. The argument. The files. The recording you just played. He knows you finally connected the dots. His breath caught. That wasn't possible. Unless. His mind flashed to the one place he never checked. The one person he never suspected. Her voice trembled. He has access to your cloud. A cold shiver ran down his spine. That cloud. That folder. Those recordings. How long? He asked, stepping closer. I don't know, she whispered. Months. Maybe longer. He felt his stomach twist. Someone had been watching him. Someone had been listening. Someone had been waiting for him to wake up, so they could destroy him the moment he did. She met his eyes with a fear that wasn't just fear. It was guilt. "I should have told you sooner," she said, tears welling. "But I didn't want to believe he'd do this to you." He didn't respond. He couldn't. Too much was unraveling at once. He sat down slowly, rubbing his hands over his face. If the cloud was compromised, it meant his messages, his recordings, his private documents, his conversations, his evidence, his photos. Everything he was planning to use against this man was already in enemy hands. Every move he thought was secret. Every plan he thought was private. Every precaution he thought he was taking had been feeding him information the whole time. He let out a broken laugh. "He played me," he said softly. "Like a puppet. Like a fool." She stepped toward him. "No. He underestimated you. He thinks having information means having power. But you're smarter than he knows." He looked up at her. "Am I?" She nodded. "You still have something he doesn't." "What?" She leaned in. "People. Loyalty. Truth. He only has manipulation." He didn't want to admit it, but she was right. Evil can gather information. Evil can watch. Evil can spy. But evil cannot inspire loyalty. And she wouldn't be standing in his living room risking everything, if she didn't believe in him. Her phone buzzed suddenly. The sound made both of them flinch. She glanced at the screen, and her face drained of color. "It's him." He stood up immediately. "What did he say?" She swallowed. "He said, 'Tell him to stop. Or I release the footage.'" His heart slammed against his ribs. "Footage?" She handed him the phone. He read the message. "Every lie has a shadow. He thinks he's clean, he's not. One upload and his reputation burns. Don't make me press send." He felt the air leave his lungs. Someone had been watching him. Someone had been listening. Someone had been waiting for him to wake up, so they could destroy him the moment he did. She met his eyes with a fear that wasn't just fear. It was guilt. "I should have told you sooner," she said, tears welling. "But I didn't want to believe he'd do this to you." He didn't respond. He couldn't. Too much was unraveling at once. He sat down slowly, rubbing his hands over his face. If the cloud was compromised, it meant his messages, his recordings, his private documents, his conversations, his evidence, his photos. Everything he was planning to use against this man was already in enemy hands. Every move he thought was secret. Every plan he thought was private. Every precaution he thought he was taking had been feeding him information the whole time. He let out a broken laugh. "He played me," he said softly. "Like a puppet. Like a fool." She stepped toward him. "No. He underestimated you. He thinks having information means having power. But you're smarter than he knows." He looked up at her. "Am I?" She nodded. "You still have something he doesn't." "What?" She leaned in. "People. Loyalty. Truth. He only has manipulation." He didn't want to admit it, but she was right. Evil can gather information. Evil can watch. Evil can spy. But evil cannot inspire loyalty. And she wouldn't be standing in his living room risking everything, if she didn't believe in him. Her phone buzzed suddenly. The sound made both of them flinch. She glanced at the screen, and her face drained of color. It's him. He stood up immediately. What did he say? She swallowed. He said. Tell him to stop. Or I release the footage. His heart slammed against his ribs. Footage. She handed him the phone. He read the message. Every lie has a shadow. He thinks he's clean, he's not. One upload and his reputation burns. Don't make me press send. He felt the air leave his lungs. He placed the envelope on the table. Between them. Between fear and fury. Between silence and war. She touched his arm gently. If you open that, there's no turning back. He looked at her hand. Then at the envelope. Then at the door. No turning back, he echoed. He breathed in deeply. There never was. He slid his thumb under the seal. Tore it open. And the war officially began.